you've heard this phrase of luxury is a level of service, not a price point. And I think complementing that is true success or luxury is the ability to do what you want.
This is Just Call Claudia, a podcast for right-sizing your life and demystifying your relocation. Today, I'm welcoming Cadey O'Leary. Cadey is an App Properties Christie's International broker in Chicago, specializing in the high-end market, luxury. We're going to talk about luxury today. She's also CEO and founder of the Cadey O'Leary collection, fabulous. And also, we're going to hear all about Boutique by Design.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's talk about you being in real estate in Chicago and starting in development, right?
I have experience in the development world. So it comes this way. I was married to a luxury home builder. So back in the early 2000s, Melrose Partners was the preeminent design build firm in Lincoln Park. And so I was around that process of really creating century quality, inheritance quality homes. And they really peppered the neighborhood with beautiful homes that you couldn't tell if they were 100 years old or brand new, with the finest finishes inside. And we can talk about new construction all day, but 20 plus years ago, the level of quality of homes, the construction, the process, the level of finish was so much higher than it is today. So I cut my teeth, so to speak, in that and stayed along with development in a consulting basis, and then moved into the sales brokerage side about 12 years ago.
What neighborhood is your specialty?
Lincoln Park. So we probably have a lot of Lincoln Park here, but if I look at this, Boutique by Design, Cadey O'Leary collection, we have an expertise in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, specifically in the upper condo market and in luxury new construction. So my team and I know we'll talk about that. I have a very small but deliberately sized team. We have brokered 1/3 of Lincoln Park's luxury, defined by $2 million plus condo market for the last 5 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of that's driven by new construction.
Right.
It's a niche market. It's about 2% of the condo market in Lincoln Park and the city, but we have a strong command of that market.
Well, I remember when we worked with you through the Orchard.
Yeah.
And look what you did there. Talk about a magnificent property and a real, like, the highest end multi.
Yeah. That's one of the hallmarks of my career in real estate and beyond. That was something, the overall success, many years in the making. That process started in 2016. And let me give that story because I think it's an interesting one. I was hosting moderating a panel on what to look for in quality design and construction and why it matters. Dennis Rodkin served as the moderator, and I brought together an interesting team, an architect, an interior designer, a landscape designer, and myself, and we were just discussing the market, and somebody from one of the development team was in the audience, and we struck a conversation. And from there, that opened up the opportunity. So this was the site, and we go down this path. We won't spend all day here, but this was the site of the former Children's Memorial Hospital, right in the heart of Lincoln Park. And the developers McCaffrey and Hines had formed a collaboration to redevelop that site. So that conversation started in 2016. We, being at the time Jameson Sotheby's International Realty, we secured the business. I was the listing agent, and developer consultant, and the process began in 2017.
Well, I remember when you reached out, we talked about collaborating and making sure that CMFTO had all their white glove package information and your sales, collateral material.
Yeah.
And that was a great project to work on because we didn't just relocate people locally. We had a strong Boeing contingent that that time, Boeing was expanding, I think, their operation here in Chicago.
There was a Boeing executive who moved in the building. I can't remember all the people who come and go, but it's interesting. Even having that service, and we can talk about it, but it's you used the word toolbox before, but it's in your arsenal of what you're offering clients. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'd love to go back to how how you and I met each other, and that I am not only an advocate of yours and refer you to some of my clients, developer and those buying and selling homes and condos, but I've used you personally.
Yes, you have. We moved you. And I remember before we moved you, I believe there were some closets that needed to be edited. And I remember, and that was such a personal thing. And specifically, one of my associates, you worked with her several times to come in and said, okay, I don't wear these clothes anymore. What do you think? And you two had fun. And I was like, I want to go do that, but that's not my forte.
Yeah.
And then we moved you to where you live now.
Yeah, a lot.
So what was that experience like?
Well, coming off that, I said I was exposed to the luxury development business in Chicago through my then husband, who is my ex-husband. Mm-hmm. That is a very personal experience. Mm-hmm. And I can say going through a divorce, mm-hmm. the loss of security, the loss of home, and what that means to mm-hmm. have to think about your life in a different way. Mm-hmm. And the level of service and care that you mm-hmm. provided during mm-hmm. that, I'll never forget. It really was remarkable. I've heard you in many of these podcasts and conversations we've had about how you were so careful and thoughtful, particularly with older couples who are making that, that change to oftentimes a senior care facility, and it's critical. But other life changes, like divorce, is a very personal and traumatic experience. I was leaving a large single-family residence in the neighborhood and moved to a condo, and I'm freed and happy and in just a wonderful place now. Right. But it was a different story those many years ago.
Right. So, Cadey, speaking of young, you're young and
youngish,
and you were even younger 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think we met more like 13 or 14 years ago. I believe we met on a Lane Place. You were doing a 3-level.
It was a luxury condo. It was a luxury condo,
very high end, and especially
at
that time in that little one
little pocket of East Lakeview.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time we met, and I knew I would like you, and I didn't know we'd become dear friends at the time, but it's been a plus as well. But are you seeing the market, the buyer today, and the individual that's right-sizing into larger homes, are they younger? Because I'm getting a sense there's some younger movement because our services are changing even to younger families with 2 young children, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So the primary clients we serve, my business we'll talk about the intentionality of this, primarily those right sizing and those often who are coming from single family homes or different markets and returning to Chicago and looking for a condo or sometimes a home in the neighborhood, maybe where they gallivanted around in their earlier years before they got married and had children. So that's a fun experience for them. The other is this, I'm going to say, young, busy professional couple, usually 2 professional working, whether they're physicians. We work a lot with Northwestern medicine in some of their physician recruits, or just professionals coming in, wanting what we talk about, that lock and leave turnkey lifestyle. So turning to, I could go down this rabbit hole too of the need for larger single level residences. It's one of the areas of business we are pursuing. But that has appeal for growing families too, because it's an easier move. They're often coming from a luxury apartment with amenities, and they don't want to go from necessarily that to a single family. They like the idea of elevator and security and ease.
Well, the gentleman that we helped you with a couple months ago, moving him from suburban location downtown, literally, he flew out of town that morning. He met one of my people, handed off the keys, and 3 days later he flew back in.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
And we had moved his cheese completely. And you know what's remarkable? I'm just sitting here thinking about him. I never heard from him again, like, where did you put whatever? And when I saw the project in process, because we mimicked exactly what he had as best we could, kept the rooms per se the same, but all the intricacies of people's contents in their home, I never heard from him, like, where are my measuring spoons?
But this is what you do well, right? When I hired you and you worked with me over months, because it is, somebody had previously said, plan a month for every 1,000 square feet. That is a great piece of wisdom and advice to share with clients and offering that more elegant, experience in the real estate. But I hired you. You managed the move, you and your team. I went out. I was working the next day writing a contract. My office was set up. My kitchen was set up. Everything was set up. I will never, ever, ever move without enlisting your help. And I'm not kidding. If I move again, I would never consider a move without enlisting your help.
Well, wherever. Make it out of state. We really
Yeah, right. Somewhere
specialize in
warm and beautiful.
out of
Maybe
state.
Charleston. Yeah.
Yes, please. Tell me about the Cadey O'Leary collection and what that means, and about your team, because I know one of your team members, Lindsay, I think
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
And I know how important she is to you.
Yes.
So
So Cadey O'Leary Collection was the brand I created when I entered real estate 12, 13 years ago. And it has since taken on a different meaning in terms of a collection of services, a collection of properties, a collection of new developments that we have represented. We are shifting our focus. So Cadey O'Leary Collection is the brokerage name. It's my brand. We have a new tagline, and that tagline is Boutique by Design. Boutique by Design is also a new business I have started in the consulting space. It's all about intentionality. So, we're in an age of all this consolidation of, what's happening with Compass and Redfin and Zillow and the consolidation of the industry. This is still a very personal experience you have with one client in helping them navigate one of the most significant investments and emotional, I don't want to say hurdles, but emotional considerations of their life. And you want to do it elegantly and with intentionality and with a white glove, high touch experience. And that's what we offer. And so Boutique by Design is reflective of that.
I love that.
We also specialize in luxury boutique developments. St. James was a more recent one.
Yes.
You came in and you're handling so many different aspects, and you're hand-holding the developers. Because with those smaller developments, your development is your client as well. And so bringing in someone like you to help elevate the experience they deliver to the prospective buyers of this new development, creating a better feeling and an energy and a welcoming atmosphere to buyers. And we talk about systemizing processes, and you're part of that. So, but we handhold some of these developers in terms of taking them from concept of what this development could be, what their goals are, to a successful sellout. And so this new business is consulting developers and their investors of boutique developments, single family homes, with creating something that has lasting impact in the market and that often outperforms competitive products.
I think you and I chatted the other day about hospitality is really kind of being bantered around in a lot of the industries. The senior community world, there's a lot of, because we're not entertainment, but we are hospitality, because we are trying to soften the transaction as best we can, come up with all the answers or suggestions or things that our clients haven't thought of to stay a step ahead of, and like you said, make it an elevated experience. Yeah. And I know that's what you and your team do, right?
Yeah. So it's bringing in the right partners. The right partners are so critical. So for us, it's partners and maybe other agents. When I said, where do you specialize? We work in Lincoln Park. We work on the north side. I've got a listing now in the heart of the Gold Coast. We're preparing a fabulous home, an old stable in Old Town, and in condos and homes on the docket, if you will. I do not sell. We do not represent buyers in the suburbs. I have clients who are looking to make that move. If they don't have an agent already, we make an introduction to somebody who can serve them. So serving them in outside Chicagoland or in Chicagoland, as well as in secondary markets. But you or somebody, when we hire you or engage you or enlist you with a client, that's your expertise. And we know it's handled and it's wonderful. It's the same when we bring in one of our trusted handymen or, painter, and you're ideally helping the clients on all these different aspects months before they plan to list or quietly go to market. Then we work behind the scenes on gathering all the information, the intel, the features, the improvements, everything that our clients have invested to create a story that resonates with the most likely buyers of that property. And that takes effort. It takes experience, and it takes time to really craft that. So you're not racing something and throwing it on the market. Getting back to that intentionality.
Well, the Lincoln Park base, the client.
Yeah.
So advising, because I think developers don't often have that insight, but you bring that insight to the potential buyer. So you take away some of those potential pitfalls that however the size of the elevator is or the design of the kitchen or whatever, Because you've been living it, and certainly with the orchard, you saw
that
was a great prototype.
18 months of biweekly design and planning meetings, and bringing in the interior design team of Susie Horner and Christopher Peacock for the kitchens. I mean, it was an extraordinary experience. Right. It was wonderful. But going back to that point, developers it's just another client we serve. And it's, there's many aspects to it. Obviously, you're helping create what the market wants and values and will pay for.
Right.
And that's an extraordinary experience. But even with resales, you're also telling a story. And with the development, you have to retell and refine and shape that story for months, if not a couple of years,
right.
to support the sales cycle.
Right.
And so having that capability in-house where, my team with Lindsay, who is a marketing design background, now my principal broker, and a couple of people who support us in the execution of our clients, properties and selling them or in helping buyers, you're borrowing from both, right? So the benefit we see is an understanding of what the upper market wants, designing that product and selling it effectively, taking that expertise to sellers of upper market properties. And I look at that, we've talked about this too, where it's more than just, what's the price point?
Oh.
It is about, you can have a fabulous one bedroom, sophisticated property that someone wants to buy. I write a lot in my newsletters and blogs and so forth. And we've often addressed that, you've heard this phrase of luxury is a level of service, not a price point. And I think complementing that is true success or luxury is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. And so to have the ability to have a home that's paid for and have a one-bedroom pied-à-terre somewhere that you can travel to, that's luxury.
Totally.
To be able to support and help your children in this, challenged economy of affordability for first-time buyers, to be able to help them with a down payment comfortably, that's luxury. And so helping that, next generation purchase a property and they, and buy a little piece of the American dream, that's a luxury service that we love providing.
Luxury has been bandied about so much that luxury is no longer luxury.
Right.
And it's so experiential.
Yeah.
And, the quiet luxury of what, a couple years ago, everyone was like, it's quiet luxury. So the reducing luxury to a mainstream, what's another word we could use? I know you love the elevated.
We use refined. It's funny. When we go back to the orchard,
that.
We never use the word luxury. And it's hard. And this is we could do a podcast on creating a new, we need more words in the English language. It's a whole different side note. We don't have enough words in the English language. So you sit there and you could do a, chat GPT or, thesaurus search for luxury. There aren't a lot. You have luxuriousness and you have refined and you have elevated and you have well-appointed, and
I like the refined word.
Upper market, and it's hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes to come up with a word that doesn't sound sometimes gauche. When you're describing.
It's been around for so long.
Yeah.
And so therefore, properties or products that are in quotes luxurious, you're like, no.
Well, and it's like the B2B talk, right? But the B2B talk, you're saying it's a luxury product. What are we building? We're trying to attract an affluent buyer, and here are the specs that we want to achieve. And then you want to take those elements and you repackage them into a story that sounds elevated, right? And you're talking about the lifestyle experience and the moments in the home and how you feel and live in that space and what you're thinking about when you're inside the space and waking up in the morning and how you're going to end your day and weaving that into the narrative. And that's something that works whether you're selling a new construction offering, obviously, or, something that has been on the, in the neighborhood for 100 years.
So a young buyer today, what are they looking for in these luxury properties?
Turnkey, right?
Turnkey.
We all know that.
They want it done.
Yeah, they wouldn't even want to pick out paint. I mean, it is something where that's why I think luxury single-family homes or the new construction single-family homes, we've had this conversation before. I go back to, again, the level of quality of finish that you can purchase in a home that might be $1 million or $2 million less in a similar location is great. The difference is significant. But you come in and it's like, wow, it's all new. We just have to order our window treatments and furniture and we're good to go. So I think that's why, many reasons why new construction condos and single family homes perform so well. So they don't have as much time. They don't have necessarily the nostalgia. And this is really speaking, I don't like generalities, but for generalities, people want turnkey. You prepare these homes for market, right? If they're too personal, we've all clicked on that listing. You're like, oh gosh, oh no, this is gonna be a hard one to sell.
Do you have a home of age right now that you're selling where you inherently know the value of, like you said, a Melrose Partners home from 22 years ago?
Yeah.
The quality far surpasses the new constructions that is out there. How do you help that client, even though maybe some of the finishes are dated? It's still the better value, but because they don't understand true quality, do you think the buyer isn't understanding the true quality like they used to because it's a younger buyer?
I don't think they care. And sometimes,
Okay.
sadly, and some do, right? So it's like anything. Like I'm not for everybody in terms of my business or you, and so you write your messaging or a property you're selling isn't for everybody. So you're really honing into what's the message, who am I trying to reach, who's my likely audience, whether it's to work with us or to live in this home. And it's the same thing with a home or condo. I have taken very affluent buyers out who are buying a second, third, fourth home in Chicago, and they have had their experience with the Century home.
Right.
They have done major renovations.
Okay.
And so interestingly, many of these buyers too are, empty nesters, the age, 60 plus, who are looking for that easy lock and leave.
Right. Lock and leave.
Lifestyle.
Right.
The challenge is we don't have the right types of lot sizes and zoning and other opportunities to deliver that in the market at the level the market would love to absorb it.
So because we have moved you.
Yeah.
And we did do editing, so I can't say it's going to be in your closet. But currently, if we're going to move you into a larger or smaller home, what that you're currently living with is a non-negotiable that must be moved with you.
So maybe a couple pieces. A couple are family related. A couple pieces of art that I have from my grandmother.
Okay.
Photos, that's an easy. I'm thinking I'm running on in a fire, but family pieces, and then a couple pieces of art I've bought myself off the success of End of the Orchard project and a couple other.
Wonderful.
So beautiful pieces of art that have a lot of meaning to me, and then a couple of family pieces that have a lot of meaning.
Pieces that resonate.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today.
It's been a pleasure. It's
fun
been a pleasure.
conversation.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Find out more about Cadey at CadeyO'LearyCollection.com. Thanks for listening. You can follow me on Instagram at CMFTO or check out our website, CMFTO.com, to learn more about my business.